Welcome, everyone. We'll get started now, just respecting everyone's time. Welcome to the ECRA's first Quality Accreditation Roundtable. We're so excited to host this on behalf of ECRA and invite a group of panelists and experts in quality and early childhood education today to have this discussion. This is the first among a series of virtual events, and we're very excited to invite you to join us. How it's going to work is the first half, we're going to be asking some questions of our panelists, asking them for their experience on what they've seen, what quality looks like, how they've seen centers grow and improve and transform, specifically in the GCC region. And then towards the second half of today's roundtable event, we're going to open the mics for all of our attendees and allow you to join in our conversation. Unlike a regular kind of webinar or a training session, this is more like a conversation amongst us. So I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll ask the panelists to introduce themselves in a moment. My name is Samia Kazi. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Global Childhood Academy. Global Childhood Academy is based in Washington, D.C. We operate in multiple countries, not only here in the U.S., we work in several states in the U.S., New York, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and Virginia, Massachusetts. We also have our offices and partners in the Middle East, in Dubai, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and we work in Africa as well, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, and I've worked with early childhood teachers in Vietnam, Singapore, and many other places around the world. My master's and doctorate is in early childhood systems, and this is what I've been doing for the last 17 years. I'm so excited to be hosting ECRA, this roundtable event, and I'm so excited to be able to see how they've helped early childhood centers transform over the last several years. ECRA has been one of the key partners for stakeholders, for the government regulators, in the GCC region, looking at quality frameworks and specifically focusing on early years. So I'm very excited to have this first ever roundtable event with them. ECRA stands for Early Childhood Rating and Accreditation. It's an internationally recognized quality rating and accreditation programs that is designed specifically for early childhood settings and preschools, serving children from birth all the way to age 8. So I introduced myself, and now I'll invite each one of our panel members to talk a little bit about themselves as well. Jeannie?
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Samir, and thank you so much for taking the lead on today's ECRA event. My name's Jeannie Barachevska. I'm based in the UK, and I've had over 40 years working in the early years sector. I'm absolutely delighted to be now part of this whole process, and ECRA has been my most recent collaboration. My background has been in quality development in nurseries in the UK, Mauritius, Saudi, Dubai, and also China. And part of my background has been visiting other countries such as Australia as well. So I've been exploring early years for a number of years. My key role as a lecturer at university has been developing early years teachers, and my master's has been in educational leadership. And this has really helped me in my visits to the Middle East to come and look at the work that's going on. And it's been amazing to see the dedication that's going on in the early years sector. And I look forward to working with the teams over there to help develop this accreditation program. but also to make sure that we're recognising quality, and the quality is underpinning every centre that is aspiring to cater and care for young children. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Dr. Manal?
Thank you, Dr. Samia. Actually, I'm the regional director for Arabian Child based in UAE. My background is in education psychology. Actually, my PhD, I'm working on the self-awareness for the children and how we can let their experience in early childhood and in their journey in the school, how they can build their personality and identity. So I'm focusing also with the Arabian Child. I'm working as a quality advisor with ECRA and Arabian Child. So I have been in this field for more than 10 years now, working with the teachers actually and the leaders and the director for the center and the schools, how they can transform and how they can go for the new strategy and how they can build the quality inside the environment and while they are working with the children. So I'm happy and nice to be with you in this roundtable, first roundtable, Dr. Samia. Thank you to invite us.
Thank you, Dr. Manal. Sada Arij? You're muted, Sada Arij.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Samia. This is me, Arija Tuwajri, and I've been working in early years in Saudi Arabia for 23 in the private sector. And what I've learned in the private sector that they are agreeing to reach the quality in work. And this is when I met your team back then, 2017, as a school principal seeking accreditation for my early year school. So now, as an ethic quality specialist, I know for sure how the accreditations work on raising the quality of the operation of the centers and schools. So I believe in working with experts and the collaborations with experts. I believe in self-evaluation and working on self-plan for improvement, and then get an outsider expert to check on the work and focus more on the quality and be able to see a holistic vision of the operation work, especially that it's in the early years is the first step in the successful life of a youth, and you want it to be done very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Arij. Chelsea?
Hi, thank you. My name is Chelsea Johnson, and I'm the International Director of the Community Partner Program. I'm actually here as a guest today and mostly just to observe like the rest of you, but you'll see me a little bit more at the end.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you. So like we said in the beginning, we're going to have some discussions about quality improvement in early childhood. And specifically, what I would like the panelists to share is real world examples from what they've seen in centers in the GCC. And specifically, most of the centers that they've worked with are in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, in Qatar, in Kuwait, in Bahrain. So I really want to hear from them examples of what they've seen quality and how those centers have transformed in that region. Then we'll open it up for Q&A and some closing remarks. Of course, before we get started, we're all here, and this has been a very exclusive invitation to this first roundtable. You're all here because we all agree on the value of quality, and specifically in early childhood education. But we know that quality improvement is a commitment. It's a journey. It's not something that we can have overnight, specifically in regions where frameworks and regulations specifically for early years are newer than other countries. We know that it involves a lot of team development and that changing that mindset to understanding what does quality and care really look like in early childhood education. It's quality improvement. It's also ensuring children's progress, that we're meeting and exceeding milestones that we have. Quality improvement it means parent satisfaction. It's retention of enrolled children. It's supporting all families and being part of that community, making a difference in that community, and going beyond the walls of the early childhood centers. It's having that structured framework in your center. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'd like to start off with the first question that I have here. So in early years, what is quality and what does it look like? So we'll start with you, Jeannie. You have worked with centers all over the world, many countries, and specifically I know you're representing ECRA, but you've been involved with centers from all over the world, and you've seen what quality looks like. And sometimes, is it different? Is it the same? And then you've been also inside classrooms in Saudi Arabia. How do you now define quality? How has your perspective changed? And what did you see specifically in the Middle East of what reminds you is like, yes, that is quality?
Oh, thank you. Thanks. And yeah, this is a fantastic question. And I'm going to start with the word that Arij finished with, holistic. If anything represents quality to me, it's this holistic approach to childhood education. And I think that's probably one of the biggest thing that I've seen, the difference between going into a centre, just for example, where they pigeonhole lessons into like mathematical, English, language, art, music, where I've seen the best learning and based on best practice and based on research. It's where children are recognised as children and they learn through every area of learning. And that learning is enabled by teachers. So I've put down in some notes earlier, quality for me is about the experience children receive and the learning opportunities that are presented to them, and recognizing it's not a one size fits all because every day a child changes. So I think from what I've seen, where I've watched, for example, in China, the adults suddenly sitting engaging with the children, not teaching at them, and then coming back to me afterwards and saying, I hadn't realized how much the children know, because now I've talked to the children, I know what they know, so I can assess them. So for me, it's that recognition that learning isn't isolated, but integrated. And I think that teachers who have been able to have the courage to change from a teacher-led to a child-led approach and have that integrated learning, for me, that's the quality that I would underpin early years with, this integrated approach to teaching and learning, where children and teachers both have that wonderful relationship.
Very
I'll
nice.
stop there. There's loads I could say, but that's enough for now.
Thank you. And Ustadha Arij, I know that you've been not only in early childhood centers, but you've been across all over Saudi Arabia, visiting schools as well as visiting early childhood centers. So what does quality look like? What is quality and what does it look like to you?
Well, quality, if I'm gonna say I'm an ethic specialist or a school principal, as I used to be, quality is when you have the intention of do an excellent implementation, but sometimes when you work, you feel that you're focusing more on some areas that you think I try to give them the priority. But then when you make a self-evaluation, you notice, I forgot all about this part. Oh my God, I forgot about documentation. Why I keep starting all over every year at the beginning of the year. there must be something wrong. And then after doing a self-evaluation, you would see the amazing things that you're doing and the areas that need supports. And here, when you say, okay, now I know where I lack the most, and then you would sit with your team and talk about all the points that you need to work on and say, okay, we need to do, let's first say, let's do some documentations, because documentations, for instance, will make us, instead of starting all over every year, we just look at these plans and then we change the things that didn't work well last year and we add some new things this year, and then the development will happen, as well as the areas that we did not work at all in because we're focusing on in other areas. And then we say, okay, so again, you're not focusing on learning. You're not focusing on teacher. You're not focusing only on the administration, but you're focusing on the whole school with all the elements, the students, the teachers, the administrations, the parents, the stakeholders. And then you would realize, okay, I was tired in the operation and now I'm more relaxed because I know who does what and when to do what and how we are going to run the school through the year in phases.
Very good. Thank you. So, Dr. Manan?
Okay, thank you. I will agree actually with Jeannie and with Arish. For me, the quality when I go for any center, any nursery, any school, always I'm looking actually for what the children they are doing inside this school or nursery, how they are spending their time, what they are doing, if they are just staying, waiting the teacher, or they are engaging in the learning, what the teacher does. Actually, this is part that really take a lot of me for that. A lot of the places they have a good environment. All the other holistic things, like other area for the documentation or other things. I believe in the quality you can work with the effort and time you can achieve all of these things. But the part for the child learning and how we can make that learning, it will be fun, active for the children. They part for their learning. They are learn while they are working, doing the things by themselves, exploring the things around the classroom or in the nursery. It's not sitting in one place, or we are the teacher not focused with them just to memorize the numbers or the letters or alphabet. That's what they are working with them, and it's taking a lot of effort also from the teacher, but it's not that what we are looking for. The quality is the children, they need to know how to learn for long time. It's not just to finish with the teacher moment and what she had planned for them. So this what I'm looking for. And actually, a lot of the places when I visited, I go, you can see this part. It's the things, there is a challenge there, Samia. Because not all of the teacher, they teaching in the old way or the traditional way, that how they get teach in the school and how they study. So that's what they try to do with the children. But this stage for the children from 0 to 8, it's really critical, and how we can talk with them, how we are doing the activity with them, it's matter in all of their life. So that's the things I think it will be different, the quality from not equality for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I spent a day in a early childhood immersion school in New York 2 weeks ago, and they teach dual language, and the English and Chinese. And actually, in the early childhood classroom, they spend 80% of their time in Chinese, even though it's a complete immersion school. And the children come out of the preschool learning 100% of both languages, but they teach 80% in Chinese in the early childhood center. And I asked them, and there's a wait list for years for this early childhood center. It's a small school near Hudson River in New York. And there's celebrities on the wait list. They threw some names, some very famous actors and movie stars who live in New York City. And I asked them what makes them so special and how they are achieving this language development. And it was very quickly, the teacher said, we don't teach them the language. We teach them in the language. And I thought that was incredible because when the highest grade they had in that immersion school was like kindergarten. And when you see the samples, as you know, when teachers document children's learning and it's all over the classroom, when you see the samples of the children's writing, both in English and in Chinese, it was absolutely mind-boggling and astonishing. I've never seen that kind of deep thinking that children have developed in the language. Never mind going on a scripted worksheet. These kids are thinking in the language, which was absolutely incredible. So that was like an example of what really quality looks like in an early childhood setting. So I just wanted to give you a chance did anybody want to follow up or reflect before we move on to the next question?
I would just like to follow up on that because it's so true. In some of the bilingual centres that I've gone to, and particularly in China, coincidentally, they were trying to teach English not by talking English, but by teaching at them. And it doesn't make sense because if you think of children in bilingual families, and I know several, that when you're at home, you live the language. So when we're teaching children, they need to live it. And I was very lucky. I had French teachers when I was at school, and we lived French. They didn't teach us it. We talked in it, we played, we role played. So I think that exactly, really typifies what we're talking about with quality, is recognizing that children have to participate to learn, particularly young children, because they don't know how to learn yet. Part of quality is teaching children. And I think you said that yourself, Dr. Anal, that the children, are part of the learning process, and we have to get the teachers to engage with the children to do that. So, and you talked about old style of delivery. There's a lot of work to be done, and even teaching early years practitioners in the UK, not everybody gets it. Not everybody can be holistic. So we have a lot of work to do, I think, across the world to put children in the centre.
Actually, I will just mention for this the language thing. One of schools I do observation for a teacher inside the school, and it's a German school, and it's not allowed for the teacher to talk another language. So her class is in German actually, and I don't have any idea about the German. But the idea for the quality, when she started doing the activity and work with the children, I learned like the children. I learn everything. What happened inside the classroom, I get the same skills and the same teaching. What she did, I get it because how she act and interact with the children and they feel build her activity, it's centered about the children. So you can do everything and it's the language, they will take it while they are working inside. So really in this time I didn't feel that okay I have language barrier or anything inside this classroom because everything is clear what they are doing, and it's the expectation for the children, it's shared with the environment also. With the activity plan, it's really in this time I feel that really that's the quality because it's not centered on the teacher and what she's saying for the children also. It's available for each child to try and to find his way to learn the things.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manal. Thank you, Arij. Thank you, Jeannie. So I want to move on to talking about some of the challenges of quality improvement. I know that ECRA has been working with the government on different pilot studies, both in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia. you've seen, and all of you have been involved in this pilot. And that's one of the reasons we invited you to this panel session. And, you've seen centers that fall all across the spectrum. Some centers were really great. And when I say the word center, I'm kind of being very inclusive, whether that's a school or an early or a preschool or kindergarten, an early childhood center. Just for the sake of the example, we'll just call them centers, all centers right now. So you've seen kind of across the spectrum. And regardless of the targeted socioeconomic level of the center, regardless of that, there are some challenges to specifically early childhood quality and quality improvement. So if you could talk a little bit about what you've seen in the centers that you've visited, why is it so challenging improving quality in early childhood classrooms? And then also, if you could add to that and talk about if they do commit to quality improvement, what are some of the benefits? Have you seen these centers, or how have you seen these centers transform? So, Dr. Manal, I'll go back and you can maybe start thinking about that.
Actually, I will say one of the challenges, like in the centers we visited, maybe how they define the quality. Most of the people working in early childhood and the director or owner or teacher, also the parents, some of them, they think that the quality is the safety and healthy. If we have good care and safe place and they take care about the health of the child, that means they achieve the quality. And this for me, it's a big challenge because it's keep the quality in one area and focus in one perspective. It's not covering all the area inside the nursery or inside the centers or school, because the child or the any child or kids inside the school, they are spending time more than 9 hours actually inside this place. So for sure, they are not just getting the experience for caring and the safety things. It's so important, but it's not all the things that what we will give for that child. So when we think about the quality and what it's mean for the people working in early childhood, that's one of the challenging because it keeps all the things going for one aspect, one area, and it's not giving the children the diversity for other things to explore for the curriculum or for the learning outcome, how they're working on that, how the teacher they will plan for the activity and working with the children. This part it's the why we need to plan for the activity. That's the question from the teachers. Actually, I face it in the when we did our visit. Why we need to do the planning? I know what I will work with the children. So this it's here for me. It's we can do the transfer between the quality or equality and the teacher when she starts reflect and think about the kind of the activity and okay after the place is safe and the health and the care is there, what I will do with the children, how I will do it, how I will do it for each child, how I will care about the difference between the children, and every child is unique. So in this way, we can face this challenging. But for me, this is the big challenge actually when I visit the center.
Very nice, very nice. Usada Arij, you've been at both sides. You've been a principal going through the accreditation process, and you're on the assessor side doing the assessment of other school principals and other schools. What are some of the challenges that you've seen when it comes to quality improvement, specifically for early childhood? Oh, I think you're muted again.
For me, the challenges is always the teacher. As a school principal, I always think that teacher has less confidence because she has less knowledge on what to do, when to do it, and how she can do it. And mainly, she always rely on a head to go back and ask questions and then comes back to her class and do the implementation. So if a situation pops up in the classroom, you would feel that the teacher is dragging and she cannot work with the situation that happens. And we might see open doors. A teacher would call someone for support. So after working on the quality, we found out that teacher training is very important. Having them as teams is very important. Discuss situations within a team and have a supported team is very important because it makes them more confident within the classroom. And in the same time, for me, I would have a new teacher in the whole year. She's not gonna ask for resignation in the middle of the year because she is dragged with work. Now she's more confident. She knows what to do. She knows how to plan it. She knows how to deal with any situations that pops in the classroom with parents. She is well trained, well organized, well prepared, so she's more confident.
I love that.
And of course, it's going to be a huge, huge turnover. Yani less turnover that I usually face as a school principal, because the leak of teachers always happen when we start the real teaching after 3 months or 4 months at the beginning of the year. And then we would find a lot of turnover. But doing it the right way, prepare them, teach them, support them, have them in groups, train them, would have less turnovers, of course.
Very, very good point. Very good
And
point.
even they don't rely on this school academic supervisor as they used to do.
Yeah, yeah. Teacher confidence and autonomy. I've seen that I think also maybe a mindset issue. I mean, I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, and we culturally, maybe when I was growing up, right, in the 80s and 90s, that we were used to we were taught how to follow orders, and we were taught that to follow instruction of a superior, and that was it's part of the culture, and it's part of how we do things. And I think that I have a more international background, so but I do really respect that part of that culture. There's so many beautiful things that come out of that. So I'm not putting that in a negative frame at all. Just saying that I think that I've seen that it kind of I've seen teachers go through this phase where they're like, oh, I can think, I can be innovative. Wait a minute.
I rely on someone with a background, with the experience, and somehow they deal with the principal or maybe the academic supervisor as God sometimes. So
It's the
this is
solution to
when,
all challenges.
yeah, this is when we say, okay, come on, let's work on improving you, feel confident, work on your knowledge. Let you work in groups when you plan, when you do an implementation. Ask for help, of course, when you need help. But this becomes less and less and less challenging for the teacher. And this is what I like the most. Within the quality, I would know what I lack because I was relying on the academic principal to do everything.
Actually, Arij, I believe this thing is also because they don't know the children needs, and they don't have this knowledge about the children. So most of them, maybe it's something for the instruction or the culture or other things. But I believe also because this confidence is coming from your information, from your knowledge. If you know the children, you know what's the best for the child and how you deal with the child. But if you rely for anyone else because you don't want to make any mistake, so you feel that he is better than you and he knows that things it's right and that's how the curriculum is.
Yeah.
And he bought the curriculum or he studied this curriculum, so he will be the guide for me. So I don't want to make any mistake. So the idea also maybe the quality, if we make it, it's open for this teacher to empower them actually, to enable them to think or to be part of the curriculum and the planning and to think about the children needs or to enable them with the more professional development or more knowledge about the age they are working with. I think
Yeah.
it will be help in this challenge.
Of course, and dealing with challenging children as well. It's been always a challenge. So once they learned how to make individual lesson planning and work with each child individually within a group, they become less and less anxiety and have more self-trust on their implementation, let's say.
Very nice. Very nice. Jeannie?
I'm really interested to hear what everybody's just been talking about, because from my perspective, all of what you're saying comes down to an effective change management program, so that when we want to bring quality forward, when we want to develop the teams, take on board things like Dr. Manal has said about the teachers needing to know the children. And again, with what Ari just said, I've always felt it's about the teacher training, but not just the training. I've had students that have gone back in from college or university and come back to me and said, I'm not allowed to make those changes because people in the centre are worried that sometimes the students or the learners or the staff coming in with higher qualifications know more than they do. So that can be a challenge. But what we want is open-minded leadership, so that they can look at the skills and strengths of their staff and think, great, I can utilise these people. And, we can put them in the classroom, give the teachers a voice. Goes back to what you said about autonomy. And what I've seen is where teachers have taken control over their own classrooms, putting the children at the centre, designing their curriculum within their classroom, they've got more confidence, they've got more self-esteem. So I really believe that we need to introduce that. But also something else I learned, I was overseeing 36 nurseries introducing a brand new curriculum many years ago. And I allowed them a 3-month lead-in time to make the changes. Whereas my predecessor that had that role, she expected change instantly. Well, we've introduced it today. I want them to start doing it tomorrow. But realistically, depending on what's going on in the centre, the manager might have been on a holiday, there could have been a change of staff. So by allowing them time and overseeing that time, checking how they're getting on, then they introduced the new curriculum very successfully, because it wasn't just the curriculum, it was letting parents know about it, it was training everybody on the new curriculum. So we've got to understand the benefits of an action plan, the benefits of time, and the benefits of putting things in place. But right at the centre of that is making sure that the teachers are confident. And I think both the other two panelists have said more or less that. So definitely we need to just consider the challenge of change and supporting people through that change and not expecting everybody to understand it in one go.
Yeah. Talking about change, really early childhood sector is going through a transformation, or has gone through a transformation in the Middle East. I mean, when we first started working, what was it, in 2008, 2009, Dr. Manal, I remember so many different government regulators asking you the question, what is early childhood? You know, what does it? And those are the government stakeholders. And then there was no requirement.
Actually, why we start with from birth. This is
Why from birth, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was no requirement. Anyone could work with children, preferably, of course, female. But there was no qualification requirement, and of course, it's very different according to what ministry you're dealing with, what emirate or city or state you're dealing with. I understand the changes of it, the different regulations, but I feel like especially now there's this shift towards a standardization among the stakeholders that early childhood is important. We all need to work together to focus on quality in early childhood. And I know that there's a big difference between going through that quality improvement and where I feel like, okay, people are going after getting an accreditation or applying for an accreditation. So what maybe Jeannie, you can start us off with what is the impact of accreditation? You know, whether it's on operations, staff, children, parents, you know, it's a big task, right? It's a very challenging task. Is it a challenging task going towards accreditation? And what's the impact of that on parents, for example?
I would say I'd rather use the word, rather than challenging, I'd rather use the word commitment. I think going for accreditation is a commitment, and it's a commitment to evaluating your current practice and looking at if you can do better. And by excuse me, by taking that first step with the commitment, you can then move the whole team forward, as we've already spoken about. But I'll just talk about a recent accreditation that I've done in the Middle East. And the interviews, part of the accreditation process that we do, we interview teachers and parents as well as leaders. And the feedback from the parents, there were 3 different parents, was so positive. They'd seen the difference before accreditation, the pathway to accreditation, and the end result. And I'll just give very brief examples. One of the parents said they'd noticed how well the youngest sibling had settled into the nursery compared to when the older sibling had first started. So there were different stages. And also, the second parent was saying the quality of the learning for her child, she compared it to relatives' children who went to other centres. She said, I couldn't believe the progress my children were making. And this was purely based on the way they turned around the curriculum and put the child at the centre. And then the third example, which I thought was wonderful, this lovely lady was so worried. She had a long way to go to work herself. I think she worked at university. And she had a new baby and a toddler that was at the centre. And when the centre redesigned itself, they had a room for breastfeeding parents, a room where parents could go and relax. So she stopped worrying about her journey to work because the centre had provided for her as a parent, as well as providing for her children. And so she felt part of their community. So that was just one example of the parent route through accreditation. And I think that's something we mustn't forget, that parents are part of the process no matter what we do. So I've just kept that as a narrow example.
Thank you. Thank you. Just for the sake of time, Jeannie, talking about accreditation, maybe this would be a good segue just for you to introduce to us, you know, what is ECRA? This is a big project that you are working on. So if you could just explain to us a little bit more, and then we'll open it up with our guest.
Okay. Well, the key thing about ECRA, if people decide to go on an accreditation journey, and as I say, I've seen this over the years, particularly in the UK, where we are regulated, perhaps more than other countries, and the other countries are moving towards it. But the first step, I think, has been to appoint a quality lead. So somebody who takes responsibility within the centre to bring the staff on board and to move the quality forward. But choosing ECRA particularly, it's got this global recognition. I've been delighted to work with CEI, the Childhood Education International, which has been going since 1892, and for them to recognise the work that we've been doing in developing ECRA and the robust accreditation domains. We've got 6 domains that, just like Arij was talking about earlier, that cover all aspects of operation, curriculum, environment, health, child protection, leadership, all of these areas. And within those areas, we've got 80 standards. And you were asking earlier if it's a challenge, and I said it was a commitment, because there's nothing within those 80 standards that centres cannot do. And if people aspire to the standards within these domains, they will automatically be working towards the highest level of quality. And what we need to bear in mind as well is that there's years of research that have gone behind these standards, international research. So what we're talking about is the expertise that's gone into planning this accreditation. And it's different from other places. It's not just coming in and somebody ticking a box and saying, yes, you've got 5 stars. It's the pathway. It's taking up to a year to do your quality improvement, your self-evaluation, bringing the teachers on board, bringing the nurses, the nannies, the parents, getting everybody involved. That way you're reaching not just quality in a name, in a word and in a star, but it means that you've looked at the children, you've looked at the provision, you've looked at curriculum. So by the time you've reached the end of the accreditation, to me, you've got all the staff involved, you've evaluated your practice, and you've made this commitment to continual quality improvement. So I think ECRA is this holistic, I'm using Arij's word again, it's this holistic route to accreditation, and people can aspire to and achieve the best possible practice for their children and their families and the communities.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. And now we have about 9 minutes left, and we would love to hear from some of our guests. Mr. Ahmed, you've asked a question in the Q&A, but you're welcome to unmute if you would like to. We're going to allow different people to talk as well. So if you want to say anything, you now have the ability to unmute and ask some questions, or I think
it would be really nice to actually see who you are.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I have been enjoying this session so far, very fruitful discussions. So my question was, from your experience during lifting up the quality in different centers in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and other parts of the globe, and also in getting them accreditation, what were the best, basically, approaches to move from the center being around the heroics of a certain individual, usually the leader or the manager of the center, to more of a process-based quality approach? I believe it's not as easy as describing it, but definitely from your experience dealing with so many childcare centers, you have noticed some practices in doing this transition and transformation from basically relying on the efforts of different individuals within a certain center to having a process in place that is activated and that different members of the staff, whether teachers or admin, are following it.
Do you mind if I answer first, and then I'd like to hand over to Arij, because I know she's done this. But what I would say initially, the process that I've been working on to build into ECRA has been to take this quality lead, as I mentioned in it originally, but then to give responsibility for different things right across the centre. So I understand where you're coming from, because it's usually led from the top. But what we're trying to work on is we split up the quality improvement process, which starts with our self-evaluation, and each room would have a copy of the quality improvement indicators so that they start to evaluate their own rooms individually, and then they come back and meet together with the quality coordinator. And that way, and it fits very much with what Arid said earlier, that way you'll find different rooms have got different problems, different areas to work with. And it's very quickly easy to then create an action plan that covers the holistic approach. But the first step, it is important that the leader recognizes that they have still got an important role. But what we're trying to do is get the leaders to give a little bit more autonomy. And that could be the hardest step. If you can overcome that step, I would say that then you're in a good position to move everybody forward. But as I say, I'd like to invite Arid as well, because I know she's actually been through this in one of her centres.
Yes, back then when I used to be a school principal, or let's say a general director of the school that I worked in, and it's an early years school, we thought that we are the best early years school in the kingdom. And we know that for sure that we are the best, and we're trying to implement within some quality standards, and we were trying to evaluate ourselves. So we thought of having a logo of an accreditation company to be next to the title of our school. This is our aim, but once we did the self-evaluation, we realized that, okay, we are running the school in a very good way, but we were focusing more in areas and we are focusing less in another area. So this is when we thought of hiring someone who can support us in the quality. So back then, we hired someone who has a master's degree in quality, which was something new back then. And we studied self-evaluation, and we tried to gather all the evidence, and we tried to see where are the areas that we have no evidence whatsoever to tick them. So, and then we put several of meetings. We had weekly meetings with team to discuss, I would like to call it weaknesses, areas that needs support, of course, some areas that we did not focus on whatsoever, we didn't even think of, and the areas that we were spending most of our budget on, trying to keep focusing on the 6 domains. So we make sure before the visitation of the accreditation team starts, we actually made a huge journey in the development of the school itself. So it was like a small workshop between me and my team. We became more organized. We became more self-structured. And of course, we were so excited to have an outsider evaluator. And then when we realized that most of the training that we used to do back then was internal, and we asked for an external bodies to come and train our staff, we knew that we were focusing more on teachers' development, but we did not focus on administration development. So we had that on as well. We were not involving parents within the students' education. And this when we realized that we need to involve busy parents to participate with their children in school. So the year after, we've built an incredible operation plan in the summer that made the school the year after work smoothly. And I mean smoothly in a way that you feel sometimes that you have some hours that you have nothing to do because
Wow.
everything is becoming very smooth. So I was exhausted as a school principal because I realized later on because I could not um, 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 uh, give the work to the team and do the follow-up. Sometimes I made the mistake of doing the work itself. So I became more relaxed. I had more free time. More free time made me have more observative
So
time.
you learn to delegate. That's what you're talking about. It's
Yes,
delegating.
and I've learned delegation, of course. Even my supervisor learned delegation. Even
Excellent.
the teachers themselves, when they work in the classroom in groups, they learn delegation and they did it with their students. So we are more productive and less exhausted.
There you go. In a nutshell.
Yeah, yes,
Right.
yes.
So, Jeannie, when I want to follow up on Mr. Ahmed's question, and please, if there's anybody else who has a question, you can raise your hand, put it in the chat, or just unmute. As a follow-up to Ahmed's question, you've been involved with centers, like you yourself were overseeing 36 centers, and then you were with another organization who were close to 50 centers. Can you scale quality? Is that possible to scale quality and have a system that is across and doesn't hinder as you grow and expand your business side of the centers?
I think, yes, absolutely. And I think it goes back to having this, first of all, the quality awareness that you're talking about, and having the structure of continual reflection and self-evaluation in place. And like Ari just said, not just for the children, but for the administration role, checking policies every year, making sure we're staying up to date with government requirements, but as well as international children's safety requirements. We've got food and nutrition. You're talking about sustainability. So it's having policies and procedures and practices all in alignment. But every year, annually, just reviewing where we are, just like again, Arij has said, revisiting the strengths and the areas for development. And to be fair, I've been a governor of schools in Northampton as well, and been on governor training. And one of the things I've found that the schools that stay on top of the processes by delegation, by having key people involved in responsibilities for different roles, it's doable and it's multipliable. If you've got more than one centre, you have to remember that the communities of parents might vary in the centre and the children might vary. So your day-to-day teaching in the classrooms might vary, but the overall structure is something that you can replicate wherever your school is. And having that voice and that ability to delegate and not feel like everybody has to take the whole responsibility for themselves. They're a team, and the team building is essential.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Manal, maybe I'll ask you if any closing remarks.
I do have a question, Dr. Samia.
Okay.
If you're introducing quality into your center for the first time, when's the best time to do that? Are you waiting until the end of the year before you do that, or are you getting started right away?
I would say as soon as you feel that you want to change, then you get started straight away, because it doesn't matter what time of year it is, because you can start evaluating and reflecting and doing quality improvement at any point. And also, it doesn't need to be overwhelming. You can do a little bit at a time, Or one of the things I did, I started with a year group at a time. So we looked at the preschool, then we might look at the baby room, then we from a child's perspective. But when we're unpacking all of that, that's when you start to see the bigger picture. Do the documents work? Have we got the right operational level of things going on that meet the needs? So whichever place you start, it will help you to unpick different things. But I do think that somebody other than the principal or the manager ought to take the quality lead, somebody who becomes their role to manage quality and they can focus on that. And they facilitate all the different departments in the school or the centre.
That's great. And actually, I have one more question, and this one's for Dr. Minnow. How quickly do you see the effects on children when you start to implement quality?
Actually, after 1 month,
Oh, that quickly?
yeah, it will be start that you will see the children more engaging and they start talking. Sometimes you will feel the first thing when you see the children, if they are no one of the children, he will express himself. But when you start add some of the resources or let the teacher to give the children the space, after that you will see the children really they can express themselves and they can engage with the resources inside the classroom. So it's taking time also to shift the mindset for the teacher to keep the child working alone or to give them the space. But if they get this mindset and the teacher and the director working on that, you can see this changing. Actually, in last month, I have one center. We work with them on the quality advising. I was working with them for 1 year. When I start working with them, Chelsea, really the classroom, the environment, the children, they are do nothing. It's also the wall, it's like empty place. You cannot feel that you are in a center or a learning center for the children. In the end of the year, you will see the children, it's look like from the beginning, from they are working in this way, the children engage. There's a lot of learning center area, resources, the free play for the children, the teacher, their language and how they are interact with the children, it's shifted. But really the journey, it take a lot with that training with the teachers, the staff, the like what Jeannie and Arish said, the holistic approach. They did like group. Each group they lead one of the quality area. Some of them working on the curriculum, some of them they working on the safety. So in the end of the year, they achieve it all.
Thank you, Dr. Minnow.
I think one of the things I would say is that all of the centres I've been to, it was particularly, well, Mauritius, China, and not so much Saudi. I haven't had this here yet, but the first question I used to get asked when I used to go to another country was, how can I help the children behave better? They always asked me about the children's behaviour. And and it was the same in the UK. I used to go into sometimes the preschool when the children are much older and very boisterous and getting ready to go to school. And as soon as they reorganized the environment and found that the children had resources to get engaged with and it wasn't so teacher led, the behavior improved instantly and the teacher's stress levels reduced dramatically because the children were involved and engaged. So I think as well, we have to think of the impact in terms of benefit for staff and children, which I know Arij touched on as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you all. Then this brings us to the end of our first ECRA roundtable. I think time flew. I had several other questions for all of you, but we just didn't have the time today. I want to thank you all. Thank you, Arij. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Dr. Manal. Thank you, Chelsea, for helping me to host this great event. Thank you to all of the attendees and your great questions as well. And I hope to invite you to future ECRA events. And I hope that you'll join me again for different conversations and different themes for our upcoming events. And the information is on the screen if you have any follow-up questions. And we'll reach out to you. If you've registered today for this event, we'll reach out to you. We'll share this recording and we'll share contact information via email as well.